and awareness of individuals or the parts of the population that are not involved in technology. I think the two most difficult things in the world, from my experience, building a brand and changing a culture.
तो फाइनेंशियल साइड पे आप कैसे देख रहे हैं? बिकॉज ये भी काफ़ी बड़ा एक हर्डल है, अनबैंक्ड है बहुत ज़्यादा. दिस इंडस्ट्री एक्चुअली रिक्वायर्स अ लॉट ऑफ इंक्लूजन टुवर्ड्स फाइनेंशियल.
अगर बैंक अकाउंट खुल जाए, so we'll consider them to be financially included.
Actually,
is that enough? वो कभी इस्तेमाल ही नहीं करेंगे. But there are many individuals I know personally who are perfectly in that capacity. Products come to market to address a specific kind of gap or exposure or hole.
Assalamu alaikum ji, this is Kanwal Masroor with another episode of CxO podcast, Talk of the Town. आज हमारे साथ बैंकिंग सेक्टर एंड डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन और साइबर सिक्योरिटी पे बात करने के लिए एन अमेजिंग गेस्ट अमीन मांजी, जो कि ग्रुप चीफ एंड CTO हैं नेशनल बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान. सर अस्सलाम वालेकुम.
वालेकुम सलाम. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much for coming and taking time from your busy schedule.
Not at all.
So I think we'll start from कि आपका जो कैरियर जर्नी रहा, वेयर डिड यू स्टडीड एंड फिर आपने कहाँ कौन से सहरा में जो है वो खाक छानी.
Sure. So I'll start from the beginning. I'll keep it short. So I was born in Karachi.
Okay.
Karachi में schooling की from grade 1 till A level St. Patrick's High School.
Okay.
All the way. Here university के लिए I went to the US at Cornell University. I got my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering.
Okay.
उसके बाद my first real job was at Telstra, which was Telecom Australia in software development.
Okay.
वहाँ 7 साल काम किया सिडनी में. फिर एक अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली मुझे टोक्यो में डॉइचे बैंक के लिए काम करने के लिए.
Excellent.
In IT. Trading and capital markets was my passion, so I used to engage in that even when I was in Australia as a market participant. So then this opportunity was too good to give up. So I moved to Japan and joined Deutsche Bank in January of 1997.
Okay.
I stayed 13 years in Japan, working for Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, and Citigroup. Most of the time was in IT management, and some of the time I was on the business side in the equity derivatives business. फिर 2008 में Lehman का मसला हुआ, financial crisis. So the dynamics of the investment banking industry was changing rapidly, especially, more in the US, but also in Japan. So वहाँ हमने rationalization की, हमारी teams को disperse किया, and then I left Japan and I moved to Singapore to work for Standard Chartered. Okay. They had a very large transformation program for their custody services business. वहाँ मैंने 2 साल गुजारे. Then I decided to return to Australia with my family who were born in Japan.
Okay.
So with my kids were born in Japan. I married my wife in Japan. She's Japanese. And then we moved back after Singapore to Australia. There I joined a company called Robert Bosch as head of their business for Japan and Australia. So they were in, at that time, business process management, IoT. वहाँ उनके साथ 3 साल के लिए था, building up the business across Australia and Japan. So primarily it was head of the business, but it was solutioning for customers. Then I decided to launch my startup in late 2015, 2016. I launched a startup called iCareer.com. The motivation was to be able to match individuals with opportunities. Okay, so it was primarily profiling of individuals based on their online activity.
Okay, so it's sort of a recruitment?
We did, so that was the idea. Forming a psychological profile of that individual and see what they would be suited to my motivation was finding and where they would be successful in a professional capacity.
Okay.
So we're using AI at that time, Google's TensorFlow. We had a distributed team across the world because psychometrics is not my specialty. Mine was bringing the platform together. So I was engaging specialists, and they weren't necessarily in Australia. They were all over the world. Then there was a issue with, if you remember, Cambridge Analytica in the Trump election cycle. Then it came to my realization is that what this platform was doing could be used for other purposes.
Okay.
And the investors then said, this is not something we want if something would happen. So they bought the IP out, and I made an exit from that.
I see.
So that was until about 2019 that they finally closed down. So that was a phenomenal learning experience. It was a startup, bootstrapped. The funding came much later, so it was very, very good. So that finished about middle of 2019.
Okay.
Then I was looking for other things to do if there was something interesting and challenging.
Okay.
An opportunity came up at National Bank. I interviewed with them. I got the offer. I took it up. And that is the best thing I've ever done.
Okay.
Yeah. I tell people in National Bank, I'm very public about it. Maybe other people have also, but I am very fortunate. I consider myself as having lived two lives in one. One is before I joined National Bank, and the other is after I've joined National Bank. And I really mean that. It's an honest assessment because I had never worked in Pakistan before.
Yep.
So for me, every day I go to work, I learn something new. I enjoy it. It's a challenge. Every day is a challenge, and that's fantastic. And I believe challenges are only challenges until you have a solution.
Agree.
So that's in summary.
Excellent.
That's my journey.
Excellent. So I can understand कि जितना भी आपने भी globally काम किया, the kind of exposure you have, and putting all this exposure to coming back to Pakistan and फिर यहाँ पे transform करना चीज़ों को, I think it's it must be not only a challenging, but I guess it's very interesting as well, क्योंकि ना आपने उनको उन practices को आपने पाकिस्तान में लाना है.
जी.
तो वैसे overall आपने क्या gaps देखे, been working with international banks, आप पाकिस्तान आए, फिर आपने फिर COVID भी आ गया ऊपर से. तो वो क्या आपने कुछ challenges देखे पाकिस्तान में? The industry is reluctant, वो कहते हैं कि अच्छा चीज़ें सामने पड़ी हैं, but करना है, किस तरह करना है, adaptability के. So how do you find it?
I think the two most difficult things in the world, from my experience, my limited experience, is building a brand and changing a culture.
Okay.
So I don't endeavor to do either of these. जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस मैंने देखे हैं और एज गुड प्रैक्टिसेस जो मैंने देखे हैं, आई ट्राई टू ब्रिंग देम इन लिटिल बाय लिटिल बिकॉज इट्स वेरी ईजी फॉर मी टू थिंक everything should be like this, but I've also had a journey of 30-40 years. 30 years ago I wasn't who I am today. I didn't know the things I knew. I wasn't the person I am today, and it's very unreasonable to expect someone to change overnight when right? So we have to take it in good measure.
It's a continuous process.
It's a continuous, incremental, continuous process. As long as that process is in place, we will reach our destination, and the destination also may change. But once someone becomes adaptable, open, anything is achievable. So that may be my limitation when we're dealing with the culture or dealing with how it is, etc. But that is my goal.
Okay.
Is to share what I know, I think to be the best, and then learn from people who give me feedback as to, no, this could be done better this way or that way. That's what I seek to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So what is more difficult? Is it a digital transformation, or maybe the technology transformation, or the cultural transformation?
Yeah. No doubt, cultural transformation. No doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, no doubt. Because technology is just technology. A transformation is just a transformation. What the end result, so a technology change is the simplest thing to do. It takes time, it may be complex, but you know what you need to do, it gets done. A transformation is at the next level. When we're talking about transformation, there's a transformation of the organization itself. That could be technologies, it could be the products and services. But most importantly, it is how the individuals of the organizations view what happens afterwards and how they can take it forward. So a transformation is not a journey that ends. Transformation is an ongoing thing. Currently, we're in a digital transformation phase, or that's the buzzword, or maybe whatever you want to call it. But that phase doesn't end. After digital, there might be something else. Or even in digital, it goes on and on. So it's not a journey that ends. And the most important is to not change, but build the appreciation in the minds of the individuals who are part of that transformation. So then they drive it forward. That is the most important part. Physically, technology may fail. Physically, the transformation may not happen. But as long as you build the mindset of the individuals, they will fix it and they will take it forward.
Excellent. So, आपका क्योंकि ताल्लुक़ रहा फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर से ही आप ज़्यादातर रहे हैं, पाकिस्तान में पोटेंशियल है फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर का. आई थिंक देयर आर अदर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस एज वेल जो कि देख रहे हैं. जैसे हमारा इंटरनेट का भी है, बिकॉज जो हमारा ग्रोइंग नंबर है, जो परसेंटेज है, इट्स फास्टर देन एनी अदर कंट्री. और फिर हमारी अडेप्टेशन टुवर्ड्स द मोबाइल डिवाइसेस एंड ये भी है. तो फाइनेंशियल साइड पे आप कैसे देख रहे हैं? बिकॉज ये भी काफ़ी बड़ा एक हर्डल है, बिकॉज लोग अनबैंक्ड हैं बहुत ज़्यादा. दिस इंडस्ट्री एक्चुअली रिक्वायर्स अ लॉट ऑफ इंक्लूजन टुवर्ड्स फाइनेंशियल. तो उस पर भी ज़रा सुनना चाहूँगा मैं आपसे.
Okay. How do we define inclusion? Financial inclusion.
Because यहाँ कैश इकोनॉमी है इस हवाले से. Because
so this, and maybe it's my limitation. Financial inclusion, this percentage of, we've attained financial inclusion for this percentage of the population. Okay? In order to make that statement, we have to have met certain criteria. Okay, this person we consider to be financially included because they've done this, this and this. अगर हम कहते हैं कि अगर बैंक अकाउंट खुल जाए, so we'll consider them to be financially included.
Actually,
is that enough? वो कभी इस्तेमाल ही नहीं करेंगे.
हाँ, मे बी शायद ये फर्स्ट माइलस्टोन है हमारा इंक्लूड किया.
So it's not कि वो एंड भी होगा, but it could be different milestones.
वो टैक्स ब्रैकेट में भी आएगा फिर वो. हाँ, ठीक है.
Right. So this is a bit amorphous for me.
Okay.
For me, financial inclusion is access to financial services in whatever capacity, whether it's accessing a bank account, whether it's accessing micro loans or small scale loans, availing other opportunities or services offered like wealth management, retirement planning, insurances. So having access to that through maybe a central channel or one or two channels, that amorphously becomes for me a financial inclusion.
Okay.
वो loan small micro loans ले सकें, business करें, then they go bigger, better. That's for me is a financial inclusion. अगर मुझे कहते हैं कोई financial include हो गए account खोलने से, तो मैंने कहा मुबारक हो, but that's not the goal. That's not the goal. The goal is to offer financial services. Okay. So individuals and populations have access to opportunities that those financial services enable. अगर आप mortgage देख लें, पाकिस्तान में इतना नहीं होता, लेकिन overseas आप mortgage देख लें. When you're young, you can't afford to buy a house, but you get a mortgage, you make payments along the way, and in 30 years, 20 years, the house becomes yours. It would not have been possible unless those individuals had access to the financial services. Mortgage is one of them.
बट मेरे ख्याल से पाकिस्तान में आई एम श्योर अब मॉर्गेजेस हैं तो सही, बट आई थिंक जो प्रोसेसेस हैं वो हमारे लिए ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, या इज इट अ माइंडसेट जो कि हमारे लिए एक चैलेंज है? प्रोसेसेस भी मुश्किल हैं.
See, एक चीज़ है, so if you look at a mortgage, okay, so this is not my area of expertise, but let's look at it from layman's perspective. In order to extend a loan or a mortgage, we have to assess the credit worthiness of the individual and their capacity to pay it back, make the payments. ठीक है, वो तो percentage of salary वगैरह हो जाती हैं. There are informal sources of income that cannot be included in those assessments, right? So immediately they get excluded. They're not even eligible. Forget about the paperwork and the process, etc. The informal income or revenue streams cannot be brought onto their own balance sheet because they're informal. So that eliminates a large set of individuals from that. In terms of paperwork, there is a massive scope for streamlining through the use of technology and digitalization, but that has to go across many sectors. Credit bureau hain, property deeds ho gayi, so it's quite massive.
Credit scoring bhi start ho gayi hai Pakistan mein. That's very good.
जी.
Excellent. So coming back to your startup, आपने एक एक शॉर्ट जर्नी एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर भी आपने की. उसमें भी मैं चाहूँगा कि एंड स्टिल यू हैव अ ग्लोबल एक्सपोजर. पाकिस्तान में एज यू सेड, अभी हम बाहर भी बात कर रहे थे कि आई थिंक एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप इज़ द ओनली की. उस पर भी मैं चाहूँगा लाइक टू हियर फ्रॉम यू. वो क्या चीज़ें हैं जो आपने कहा अच्छा उनको छोड़ दें उनको बढ़ने दें, उनको ऑर्गेनिक ग्रोथ करने दें या क्या करने दें? सो क्या गैप्स हैं जो आप देख रहे हैं?
उनको फैसिलिटेट करें. सो आई हैव एन faith in the human spirit. People will find their course, they'll find their way. उनको थोड़ी support चाहिए when they're starting off, and make it easy or convenient, for example, for entrepreneurs to obtain investments from overseas. Okay? And then to obtain investments, the investor has to be assured of extracting the investor's investment later on. Yeah. So that is one area because of the situation in the country, economic, political, maybe some other aspects. There's a lot of friction in that process.
Okay.
And there's some issues with the FX raised by entrepreneurs from overseas and how much they can keep, etc., etc. I believe the one option is to let this sector flourish, which is the IT sector, the services IT sector, and maybe products, services, product sector of the IT, because products will have some impact on imports because you need hardware and software and licenses. But the services definitely is very, very low investment. And that sector is one that I see has potential to generate foreign exchange, overseas remittances and overseas revenues, dollar revenues in a short period of time. They don't have to import machinery, wait for it to come, install by the time it gets. On the same token, you need to have the human capacity, the human capability, the resources, skilled, maybe experience to be able to offer that. Then the counterpoint could be that, that takes years to build up. But there are many, many, many individuals I know personally who are perfectly in that capacity.
Okay. Excellent. So, coming back to your topic, which basically आप खुद भी क्योंकि टेक्नोलॉजी से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं, ये हमारी जितनी भी अभी we are talking about the emerging technologies जितनी भी अभी आ रही हैं, especially the AI.
Yes.
Previously, though, we were talking about metaverse and blockchain and other activities. AI has actually, revolutionized everything, and everyone is actually talking about AI and the use cases of AI, especially after the Chat GPT.
Ji.
So, how do you find के banking में, because आपने बाहर भी काम किया, again मुझे वो बड़ा है कि you have sort of exposure and you can deploy such stuff in Pakistan as well. कितना कोई आप scope देख रहे हैं for financial industry, banking sector, for this emerging technologies, और हम क्या वो चीज़ें हैं जिसको हम बड़ा fast pace पे करके a country like Pakistan जो कि lots of potential we have more than 60% youth as well.
Yes.
तो ये ओवरऑल लैंडस्केप को आप कैसे देख रहे हैं?
It's complex.
हाँ.
And I don't have a straight or a simple straightforward
but
answer
आपका
for
अपना भी
this.
कोई वो होगा.
AI, especially after ChatGPT, and I'm saying after ChatGPT because it opened it up to the world.
Yeah.
The use of AI, not the development of AI, the use of AI. I use it all the time, but I use it from the perspective that of rewriting something, fixing something up, or looking for information. The AI as available to us today through ChatGPT or the LLMs is only going to give us information it already has portrayed or depicted in a different way. It is not going to extend that knowledge frontier.
Yeah.
There are other uses of AI, for example, in assessing credit risk or fraud management, transaction monitoring. There are many vendors who are offering products with the AI marketing, and we just have to be careful how much of AI is actually in there. And I'm saying this because the SEC has prosecuted cases of vendors in the US and won it where they have marketed their product as utilizing AI when it wasn't. And these are listed companies or listed or some category of companies. That's why the SEC got involved. Right, so we have to separate the two out between what could be a predictive analytics and what's an AI. So buyers beware. We have a duty to vet that what we're getting is actually an AI and go and verify it. But we have regulation on our side that will also do it. There is scope, but even before we go for specific use cases, like very specific fraud monitoring, predictive, etc. Great. There's a massive amount of opportunity in the things we do day to day. Writing, researching, emailing, responses, and this office automation, Excels, Words, related to this. So it's very low-hanging fruit that can boost our productivity. It boosts my productivity. So I don't have to think about all the different ways I can write a sentence. I'll ask ChatGPT, it'll give me 5, I'll pick one up. And if I don't like it, I'll prompt it some more. So one part of ChatGPT, for example, if whoever's listening, is prompt engineering. So there's all courses as to how we prompt and how we change our prompts to get the information that we want.
Excellent.
So there's a lot to be done before we focus on very specific cases. There's certainly use cases, but there's a lot to be done across the large aspects of the population. Then picking on specific use cases, wo to hain, and some vendors are bringing it on, especially in the area of cybersecurity. Although we'll see how effective they actually become at the end.
So आपका क्योंकि cybersecurity भी domain रहा है, and as you have mentioned, would like to hear from you कि क्या कोई आप फ्यूचर देख रहे हैं, क्या हमारी जो है ना वो एक प्रोएक्टिव अप्रोच है, कंसिडरिंग कि जी हाँ ठीक है हमने ये चीज़ें जो है वो डिप्लॉय करनी है, इज इट समथिंग, या हम वो अभी रिएक्टिव उस पे ही हैं हम लोग?
आई बिलीव cyber security, that's on the defensive side, so not the hacker side, is always going to be a defensive game. It'll always be a reactive game. And the reason being is that products come to market to address a specific kind of gap or exposure or hole. And we don't know where the offensive actors, which way they'll go. There's multiple ways that people can't think of. If there wasn't, we wouldn't have a cybersecurity issue because everything would be patched on day one, right?
Agree.
You could say the products aren't verified, but you're never going to be able to verify every product 100%. They'll come from a different angle because there's no scope here, so we'll go different ways, and that's a never-ending game. So I believe it's going to be reactive. I believe it's going to be defensive. I believe we'll be one step behind the offensive actors. But being even one step behind them is a long, long way. That just leaves a very small opportunity set for the unknowns. There's a lot that needs to be done across the industry, and everything is going digital. Your utilities, your grid, your telecoms, banking, health, they're all digital.
Yep.
So one way is for if someone wants to inflict disruption or damage, is to bring down a public utility. I consider banking to be a public utility. That will bring the industry down. That will bring the economy down. If something was to happen to, let's say, the telecom sector, how are you going to communicate? How are you going to talk to your branches? If there's an attack on the telecom sector.
Agree.
If there's an attack on the grid, being in Pakistan, one day the grid went down and everything kept working because we are ready for that. So we have resiliency there. Everything got generators and kept working. So we have to think about those things.
Okay.
And it's never enough. And that's one thing that keeps me awake at night.
So what are the measures के हमें वो लेने चाहिए, considering कि जिस तरह के हर एक चीज़ इवॉल्व हुई, ऑब्वियसली हैकर्स भी इवॉल्व हो रहे हैं, वो भी नई नई टेक्निक सीख रहे हैं. सो क्या हमें मेजर्स अडॉप्ट करने चाहिए?
See, the biggest one, I think, so one is we know the gaps that we have, and those should be plugged. Okay, that leaves a set of gaps we don't know we have, right? And there could be some gaps that we know we don't know. There could be something in that area. Okay, we can plug those. We can find out about them. But there could be other exposures that we don't know about. There's no way you're going to address those. But I think those are right at the margin. So if we get to that stage, I'll be a lot more comfortable. But I don't think we are there as an industry or as a country. When I say we, I don't mean just Pakistan. I mean globally.
सही.
ऑस्ट्रेलिया में देख लें कितने हैक हुए हैं, ऑप्टस का हुआ है, मेरी हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस कंपनी का हुआ है, यूएस में देख लें.
It's not limited to banks only.
No, not at all. So, but the biggest one is awareness, and awareness of individuals or the parts of the population that are not involved in technology. They're not IT people, and you'll be amazed as to how unaware and how innocent individuals are. And these could be PhDs, they could be medical doctors, they could be engineers. I know them firsthand. They could be very successful businessmen. You send them a link, it says here I should do this, I'll get something free. I'm like, for God's sake, don't do that. And मैं 1, 2, 3, 10 लोगों को समझाऊंगा. This is
phishing होती है सारी.
Correct. And these are the things मुझे समझ आती हैं. पहले मुझे spam आते थे. 1 second spam. Honestly, now I get a spam from something in Microsoft. It looks so, on my personal email, achha. It looks so authentic. And why are they sending me this? It could be. It's taken me up to 10 minutes to figure out this is a scam. It could be a dot that's missing somewhere. It could be one spelling mistake.
And then the ASCII characters as well, because, we don't find the A has been written in another.
That's another one. Yes. Yes. So that's when, from someone like me, who's sort of in this business, knows a little bit about things. Imagine what happens to individuals, what they go through is like, they'll click on anything. You get a free donut at one of these places, they'll click it. I'm like, what are you doing? Put your name in here and put something else and we'll send you an OTP and do this, etc. Before you know it, your bank account's been cleaned.
Yeah. So, how data is important? Because, as you mentioned, it's not only banking, because, सबको पैसा नहीं चाहिए, but, वो data हमारी कितनी breaches हुई हैं globally.
Yes.
So why actually data is important?
We are data.
Yeah. Every activity, I think we should.
Every activity produces some data set somewhere. Some is recorded, some is not. If I have all the data about you, I know your retinal scan, I know your fingerprints, I know your date of birth, I know where you travel, when you travel, I know how long you stay there, I know what you have for dinner or breakfast, or dinner, let's say if you order out, I know what your bills are. then it's not very. I know all the date of births. I know your mother's maiden name. Traditional one, Australia. We're gonna. What's your mother's maiden name? Everyone knows my mother's maiden name. It's not a secret anymore. So once someone has that data, they have profiled you.
Okay.
And profiled you. It could be quite innocuous in terms of offering you services and this and that you may want. It could be fine. That's an innocuous part. The other one is they could steal your identity. So I don't need you to be there personally to steal your identity. We're going to everything online. Everything online means the person doesn't physically have to be there. That means all we need is attributes about that person. And your attributes are all in data.
So वो सारे patterns को actually
yes.
Okay, excellent.
So I know your fingerprints, I know your retinal scan, I know your medical records, etc. Whatever is required for that specific activity.
But
I have it.
अभी इतना it's very difficult to get yourself because हम अब इतनी social media apps use करते हैं we enable location everywhere. हम उनको allow भी करते हैं. They have access to the contacts and the galleries as well.
Correct.
So I think it's very difficult to get yourself कि जी ठीक है या तो मैं बिल्कुल इंटरनेट बंद कर दूँ अपना और वो सब कर दूँ because every big company has the data. उसको ये पता है कि मैं कितनी देर बैठता हूँ कितनी देर चलता हूँ मेरी spending patterns उनको पता है मैं क्या चीज़ें खरीदता हूँ ये उनको पता है.
Yes.
तो कैसे हो सकता है how is it possible कि हम इस digital era में we actually close ourselves कि जी ठीक है मैंने अपनी information तो already हो रही है.
There's no straight answer and there's no succinct answer. There is no answer to that. I think it's
तो मतलब हमें careful किस चीज़ में होना चाहिए
हर चीज़ में
कि हम कौन सी ऐप को अपनी information दे रहे हैं.
Unless you go to a pizza parlor and you buy a pizza and you pay in cash, you'll be on the video or whatever, but at least but that's not realistic. It's not realistic. We have to be, life has moved on. We are digital entities. I don't go to the bank branch. I use my app. Why do I not go to the bank branch in person? So I don't need to use an app. I'll never use an app. I always go to the branch because वक्त सेव होता है and hassle कम होती है and I can just do it quickly and everything's done. So there's a trade-off. I don't think in today's today we can sign off on the internet and say I don't have any digital connection, no phone, no credit card, no nothing. Right?
Stone Age में चले जाए.
Yes, but that's not realistic. No. It is just constant awareness, and if something looks too good to be true, someone's giving you a free donut and this and that. Maybe it's saying no, thank you. There might be an authentic offer from one of these companies, but I say I don't want it. Thank you. So it's a continuous. You just have to be aware and aware and aware. And as soon as you find out or you think something, change all your passwords, inform all the organizations where you think you've been compromised and have it done. And that's a hassle in itself. You try to, if a fraudulent transaction happens on a credit card and you report it to the bank, they'll say, yes, it was fraudulent, etc. Then you got to get, I get a new credit card. And all my debits that used to happen on the credit card, I have to call each of them, ask them to reset it up, etc., etc.
Sahi.
It's not straightforward. In बीच में वो time लगता है तो वो bill आता है and that gets overdue and you didn't pay it तो कुछ और कट जाता है.
सही. So again फिर मैं उस बात पे अपनी वापस आऊँगा. क्या आप gaps देख रहे हैं for the financial sector कि I think ये चीज़ें हम adapt कर लें तो it could be much better in terms of कि हम थोड़ा सा maybe एक ज़्यादा रीच हम बढ़ा लेंगे या हम ज़्यादा ईज कर लेंगे शायद मे बी यूजर्स को कंज्यूमर्स को.
See, let me ask you a question. Why do you deposit money in a bank?
Because I can't keep myself कि मैं कहाँ रखूँगा सर.
तो आप अपने दोस्त को दे दो. Keep it for me.
हाँ अब वो पता नहीं.
Right. Right.
So it's a trust issues.
The core aspect of a bank is the trust. Now, how does that trust come about? It comes about how long has the bank been around? What's its legacy? How is it regulated? What's its reputation? How much involved is it in society, in their CSRs and supporting community development? All that put together, some to a large extent, some to a lesser extent in terms of in that makeup. But that becomes the trust. There's insurances, either sometimes it's regulatory insurances, or in some countries you have sovereign insurances, what come हो रहे हैं लेकिन हैं. So that all put together makes the trust कि मेरे पैसे safe रहेंगे. Okay. Now, हुआ क्या है कि in the good old days, I guess in my good old days also, बैंक को access करना हो, branch को access, पैसे को access करना हो, you have to go to the branch. I haven't been to the branch or a bank branch for maybe in the last 4 years I've been 3 times. Okay. So I do everything through online apps. Now, so you knew in the good old days that when you went to the branch, it would still be at that corner, right? Now, banking has moved on, and there's been a progression where first we had the telegraph, so we could much quicker than sending a person or a horse and pony across the country to say, okay, make this transaction. You got the telegraph, then you got the telephone, then you got electronic connectivity, then you got ATMs, then you got internet, then you got electronic funds transfer, and you have mobile app. And this is going to evolve. You have embedded finance. Now the bank has come to me. I don't have to go to the bank. The bank is with me anytime, 24/7, everywhere.
And in my pocket.
Yeah, in your pocket. So the trust of the bank now, and this is made possible by technology, specifically information technology, the digital expression of real world. So now my trust has moved from knowing that branch is going to be there to knowing that my app is going to be here for me. Right? So there's a big dependency now on making sure that the services we provide, where we have brought the bank to the customer's pocket, is there. If something happens from a technology perspective, either a cyber kind of an issue, or a operational issue in the technology itself, or a failure of the links, or whatever it might be, that affects the customer.
Yeah.
The customer, if it's a little glitch here and there, it's okay. But if there's connectivity is gone and they don't have the app for 10 days, they're going to start losing trust. They know they could go to the branch, but that doesn't happen anymore. For 10 days or 3 days or some time period, I lost access to my funds. Okay. I couldn't make all these bill payments or pay these bills. So banks have to ensure, or financial institutions have to ensure, that trust is maintained, that the trust envelope has moved from the branch to the customer's pocket. Yeah. Now, one way in doing that is for institutions who are regulated, is to ensure they are in compliance with regulatory mandates. Regulators are across the world are very progressive in terms of ensuring there are regulations in place, there are mandates in place that regulated entities have to follow.
Okay.
And when I say progressive, I don't mean looking forward and preempting. They are progressive in the sense that they are very timely and they are very comprehensive. So one way to ensure the gaps, comply with regulations, and feel free to go ahead of that, but at least comply with the regulations, because they are there for a reason.
Agreed.
Regulators learn from each other, they learn from history, they learn from analogy. So they bring out new regulations to make sure things don't happen in one place that have happened in the other. So it's a very active process. Aside from that, so is to ensure we have the best of class in ensuring that the bank in the customer's pocket is there and it is integral. And that could be multiple things that need to be done.
Yep.
Right? These are only the technology risks I'm talking about. The other banking risks continue. Credit, liquidity, market, compliance, बहुत मॉडल वो तो वो चलती रहेंगी. That's the banking domain. It's the IT is what we call the nitrous oxide in the gasoline to give that boost, and it's not going anywhere. Okay. This is what drives it, right? So it's an exciting place to be in for someone like me. I enjoy it. It's a continuous challenge, which I also enjoy. And I like addressing those challenges and coming up with a solution. And when those happens, I'm a little satisfied that we could address that challenge, but the next one is just waiting. There's a whole list of challenges. And often we go attack them in parallel. Usually that's what happens. So the world is changing, and we have to be ready for anything to happen in the next moment.
Agree. So thank you, Amin. कोई message देना चाहें हमारी audience को?
The only message in this context is if something is too good to be true, especially from an offer, an email, a WhatsApp link, maybe it is a fake. Maybe it is too good to be true, and maybe it's not true. The second one is, when you're talking about AI, the biggest danger I see in the short term for AI is deep fakes.
Deep fake, yeah.
Maybe you've heard about this. Last week, a company, and look on the internet, I forget the name, a company transferred $26 million out of the company. It's gone because the offensive actors orchestrated a deep fake, and they brought the CFO online onto a call, convinced the person that he's the CEO, or the person on the screen is a CFO, and to make that transfer out of that organization. It wasn't a financial organization. Okay. This is the first one I've seen of a documented deep fake. So don't believe anything you see online. Doesn't matter who says it. Don't believe anyone you see on TV. Don't believe any news reports. And the way to do this, then the question is, well, what's real and what's not? Yeah. We are in a post-truth world. Truth is made up.
Yeah.
And there are some ongoing examples where the truth has been blown apart, which is very tragic. That's happening in that location. And what I do is I look at multiple channels, and I have to triangulate the truth.
Okay.
Right. But it's not 100%. Yeah. So be aware, and just because everyone is saying it doesn't make it true. So those are our limitations, and we just have to work with it. But it's going to get much worse before it gets better.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Amin. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me on. And I look forward to more conversations.
Inshallah. Very soon. Thank you, ji. Thank you so much, ji. हमारी podcast को देखते रहा करें, share करें, like करें और submit करें. Thank you, ji.